accepted the fact that I'm sort of an adult now. But she, like all mothers, is ever watchful. She's 91 and so sharp, so on the ball. But she doesn't sort of try and guide my life anymore. She thinks I should make my own mistakes.
When you were a child working in film, she wouldn't let you go to the bathroom alone.
Oh, the studio wouldn't. I had a caretaker practically following me everywhere.
When did she finally stop worrying about Elizabeth? Do you remember?
I think when I was married to Mike Todd, she realized that I was finally a grown-up girl.
You talked about the pain of this terrible mistake of a marriage with Nicky Hilton. And you were very young, and the marriage lasted, I don't know, a year or something. She must have been very, very troubled, as you were.
Well, she was, and she read accounts of it in the papers, which were all distorted, about Nicky throwing chips in my face at the casino and slapping me, all of which were exaggerated. But I was in Europe and she was in California, and it must have been very hard on her.
Do you remember when you first saw her and you said, "Mom, it's over," or was she happy to get you out of this, or did she see it coming? I mean, you know, mothers are pretty smart. Did she look at him and say...
Yeah, I think she did, but when I made my decision, I went and stayed with a friend downtown L.A. where no one would think of looking me. And I thought about it for about 4 days, and no one could find me. And then I made my decision public to my family.
I assume that your mother was your most difficult message, was it? I mean, you didn't want to hurt her, or perhaps not. You didn't want to hurt anybody, but was it hard for you to tell your mom that this was going to end, this marriage?
No, because I think she already instinctively knew that bad things were going on, bad things that I won't even begin to get into. They were just, they were worse than unpleasant.
As one reads your book, I can't say that anybody would be necessarily surprised that your first outing, your first marriage, would not be successful. Let me try and explain this. And I think you may agree. You were really in a very, very strange situation. You were, here you are now, and were then this drop-dead, beautiful creature who was expected to create an erotic illusion on film at age 17, 18, 19, I don't know how old you were, with Robert Taylor.
16.
16. You were playing, here you were with this 22-inch waist, very busty, gorgeous, and you were a virgin.
That was a rarity in Hollywood, I can tell you that.
But being a virgin, creating these adult illusions on the air, having to go to school, coming into your own full flower, I'm surprised you survived any of it. When you look back on that, wasn't that nobody meant it to be cruel, but it had to be. You wouldn't do this to
It was very confusing for me. And I think that's the reason I married so early, was to get away from all the supervision, to find out what life was about for myself and begin living it for myself. And I thought the only respectable way I could do it was by getting married. And many girls my age married at 18. I thought I was in love, too. It was sort of a Prince Charming sort of storybook romance.
Right. And just when I thought I figured you out, normally a person who is this sheltered and uses marriage to get out of the house, you're not the first woman to do that. At the same time, you were telling Louis B. Mayer to go to hell. Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that kind of fire? What a smart...
I guess I was just born with that. I was always a rebel, and it really didn't matter to me. I wasn't that ambitious. It didn't matter to me whether I had a career or not. What did matter to me was my own personal integrity and my own sense of identity. That's always been very important to me. I think that's why, as a child, I would go riding instead of playing with my peers, and like I really didn't have kids my own age as friends.
Well, you're not unlike, then, a lot of child stars in that you had, I guess you'd have to say, no childhood. But you seem to survive this better than a lot of others.
I think I enjoyed it. I loved riding. I loved being introspective. I loved the fantasy world that I was thrown into, and I could separate it from reality. And I think I was very lucky in my parents reminding me of that all the time, you know, that one world was real and the other was fantasy. Like when somebody would pay me a compliment, if somebody would say, "Oh my God, you have such beautiful eyes," my mother would say, "Elizabeth, remember, always remember, it's the expression in your eyes, not your eyes, they're just eyes. It's the expression, what you're feeling."
But you were blocking your real self, weren't you? I mean, I don't see how you can really get in touch with your feelings, to use that old expression, when you're surrounded by males who want to put you in the proper light and change your face and your hair and...
That's so much. I would get away, and it was me and the animal, and I'd commute with nature, and that way I could hold onto myself, the core of me.
You talk about a Felipe Halsman, is that his name? Was he a photographer? He's a still photographer?
Famous one.
He made you first appreciate your own adult beauty. Is that how I should interpret your point?
Well, I'd never really been aware of one side or the other side. I thought both sides were the same on one's face. I hadn't stopped to think that they were different. I hadn't stopped to analyze my features.
How old were you at this time?
A face is a face. 16. And it was like the first time I'd worn a very sophisticated evening dress. And somebody did my makeup and hair. It was for Life magazine.